Representative Anderson, you're recognized to explain amendment barcode 926917.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment stemmed from my very first bill that I filed in the House was HB 289, the 9/11 Heroes Day bill. So before I present it, I want to thank all the original co-sponsors of that initial legislation and also recognize my prime co-sponsor, Representative Tremont. This bill did make it through some committees, and I specifically need to recognize and thank Representative Rizzo for allowing this amendment on your education bill. Members, this amendment recognizes the heroes that arose during and after the horrific terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11th, 2001. On that day, 344 firefighters, 72 police officers, 189 people at the Pentagon, 44 people on United Airlines Flight 93, and thousands more in the Twin Towers lost their lives. Additionally, over 25,000 individuals became sick or died in the years following September 11th, 2001. This amendment ensures Floridian students understand these events and how our nation responded. It standardizes and requires a 9/11 curriculum for students in middle school and high school that is to be delivered on September 11th each year. The curriculum is to be designed to remember the sacrifices of military personnel, government employees, civilians, and first responders who were killed, wounded, or suffered sickness due to the attacks, including but not limited to the following: the historical context of global terrorism, a timeline of events that occurred that day, the selfless heroism of first responders and civilians involved in the rescue and recovery efforts, the heroic actions taken by the passengers of United Flight 93, the unprecedented outpouring of humanitarian, charitable, and volunteer aid, the global response to terrorism, and the importance of respecting our civil liberties while ensuring the safety and security of our nation. This education will begin in the 2023-2024 school year. Mr. Speaker, that is the amendment.
Members, are there questions of the sponsor? Are there amendments to the amendment?
None on the desk, Mr.
Are there
Speaker.
substitute amendments?
None on the desk, Mr.
Is there debate? Representative Tremont, you're recognized. From Representative Anderson's desk.
Jager.
Jake.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I taught American history for the better part of a decade, and one of the things I always reminded my students is that every generation going back to the Lincoln assassination has had a moment of history where everybody remembers where they were when they found out. When Lincoln was assassinated, you remembered where you were. The sinking of the Lusitania, they remembered where they were. Fast forward to Pearl Harbor, people remember where they were when they found out. Fast forward to the Kennedy assassination, remember where you were. Our event was 9/11. We all remember exactly where we were, what we were doing when we found out. And we have a motto that we've had ever since that has taken place. We say, never forget. This amendment goes to show that we are going to live up to that motto, and our students today and our families will never forget that momentous day. Thank you for this amendment.
Additional debate. Representative Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would definitely agree. As an educator, I remember I was in a classroom on that day, and I think that this is a part of American history that we will never forget, and that as we go into the future, our kids should always remember this because it was something that we should never forget. So thank you for bringing this amendment. I think this is a great addition to our history to make
Additional
sure
debate. Additional debate. Representative Holcomb, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must chime in. I appreciate this amendment so much. And for those people who joined the military due to the attacks on 9/11, I just want to offer a few brief words. There are members of this society now, parents whose kids are in school, that need to learn about this. They need to learn about it so they can have that conversation with their mom or dad. I'm looking at another member of the military right across the floor here. We have a member of the military in the Senate who lost a limb from his service from the attacks in 9/11. So this is a great thing. Representative Anderson, I appreciate that because it's changed my life, those attacks, and the lives of many other members of the military. So thank you.
Additional debate. Representative Casalo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, thank you for this. We talked about this when it was in the form of a bill, and I wish that this had gone through as on its own merit. I have no problem attaching to Representative Rizzo's education bill. I think that's a good bill also. But with that being said, being a former firefighter from Massachusetts and being in the fire station that day, like it was said, you never forget where you were and how it is. And many of my colleagues, we went down to New York and helped work what was named the pile. So this should never be forgotten. It's a page in history, and it has significant consequences. So I thank you for taking this on. I wish I had thought about this earlier in my legislative career up here. I think it's a great bill, but I'm glad it's here and it's on the House floor, and I urge all my colleagues to vote up on this amendment and the bill. Thank you.
Additional debate. Representative Harris, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, thank you so much for bringing this amendment. I'm a New Yorker, and what some people don't know about me is that my grandfather actually was the head electrician at the World Trade Center. He put the electricity in the building before it was completed. There's pictures of me in a hard hat in the construction zone, and we all do remember that day, and we remember our memories of places and the people that we've lost. And so I think it is a worthy cause to make sure that people are educated on what caused it, and so that we can work towards preventing it in the future. So thank you.
Additional debate. Seeing none. Representative Anderson, Representative Rizzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Representative Daniels and I, we are both extremely honored that this has been added on to our bill. And I just couldn't be any prouder. And I sat in committee when the representatives presented, and it was an honor to hear it and vote up on it. And once again, I think I speak for Representative Daniels when I say that we are just honored and blessed to have this as part of our bill. Thank you, sir.
Other debate. Representative Anderson, you're recognized to close on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, so many of us have firsthand accounts, whether it's our family or friends that were affected by these terrorist attacks on September 11th. And like so many of you and so many of our constituents, this is an important topic for me as well. Some of you know that I'm originally from northern New Jersey. I lived in a small commuter town. It's about 45 minutes outside Manhattan. Where I lived, all our friends, our neighbors, they commuted to New York City every day. And where I grew up, pretty much everyone knew somebody who died on September 11th. And everyone knew somebody who had what I always called near misses. And near misses when, I think about a family member or a neighbor who was on their way to work that day and they missed the train, or they missed the ferry, or they got stuck at the red light. Or for some reason that day they decided to stop at Dunkin' Donuts and get coffee instead of getting it from the break room like they normally do, and they weren't there when those planes hit the tower. Or a friend who's a firefighter or a police officer who decided to trade shifts with a buddy that day, and they stayed home from work, but their buddy didn't come home from work that day. Or a cousin who volunteered to help with the recovery efforts. What was brought up, they used to call this the pile. I remember when the pile turned into the pit, and that was a sign that we were making some progress. Many of those people that volunteered to do that have since become sick or have passed away. So in that part of the country, students learn about the events of these terrorist attacks on September 11th from firsthand accounts of American patriotism. And it's my goal for this legislation to bring that same experience to every single student in the Sunshine State. So with that, I ask for your favorable support.
Representative Anderson, having closed on amendment barcode 926917, all in favor say yea. Yay. Opposed, no. Show that amendment is adopted. Read the next amendment.